Welcome. My name is Adriano Salucci. If I haven't met you before, I'm sure I'll be emailing you, so I'll know you at some point. If this is your first BizNow event, welcome. If it's not, welcome back. Looking forward to this morning's program. We've got a packed program for you, as we have a packed house. Before we get started, I want to say thank you to our sponsors, who without none of this would be possible. Our host today, Cervera Real Estate, the beautiful Conrad Hotel. I'm actually going to be bringing up Krista Reichman in a minute. Reichman. See, I said Richmond in a minute. We've got Kinley Home, actually David Taxman is on one of our panels. CBRE, we've got Chris Gallagher on one of our panels. ID and Design International, Mr. Sharif Ayad is also on one of our panels. Becker, Mr. Phil Rosen will be moderating our second panel today. We've got Thompson Architectural Products, and I know I saw Lori, Glenn, and the team here. Go talk to them, stop by their booth, see how you can incorporate them on your next project. We've got Styles, they're going to be speaking as well. Scott is on our panel. We've got the Miami Association of Realtors, which we're always super happy about our partnership there. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We've got Mr. Freed on Business, Mr. Jim Freed, always a friend of business. Capital Analytics, these wonderful books up here at the front. You'll see, go see Erica in the back, Erica Knowles. She'll tell you a little bit more about it and how you can potentially get into their publication. We've also got NKDA, an amazing design architectural company. Their offices are based in Wynwood, starting to do more work down here, so thrilled to have, up here I should say, so thrilled to have them a part of it. One quick announcement, I'm just going to be annoying because my sister's in politics, so she just drowns me in this every day. Go vote today if you haven't. Please go vote. With that being said, we've got two panels for you. The first panel is going to be talking about kind of greater Broward County with the backdrop being an urban core downtown. And then our second panel is really going to hammer in on the specific neighborhoods that are growing here in Fort Lauderdale. But before we get started, I got two people I'm going to bring up on stage. First, I'm going to bring Krista from Cervera. She's going to tell us a little bit about this property. And then I'm going to have Jenny Morejon, who I did not mention. The Fort Lauderdale DDA is one of our presenting sponsors. So without them really being a part of this, it would be hard to uphold the great panels that we work together. So thank you, Jenny and Marty and the team. So without further ado, Krista, make your way up to the stage.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming, and thank you BizNow. We're super excited to have this wonderful event here at the Conrad. I have attended this event a few times in the past year, a few years, and I just really think it's one of the best that we have, especially in Fort Lauderdale, because we're going to learn so much about our city here specifically. So I know many of you are local, and you've probably seen this building unoccupied for quite some time. So yay, we did it. We're finally here, and we opened in December 2017, so we are approaching our official one-year anniversary. About in December 2016, we had a new development team take over. They are called the Heafy Group. They are based in Canada. They have over $1 billion in real estate assets, exactly who the building needed to come in and help us out and get us to the finish line. They own a lot of other Hilton properties, so they're very familiar with the brand, from DoubleTrees to Hilton's to the Conrad. So the Conrad is a luxury brand in the Hilton portfolio. There's only 35 in the world, so we have the reservation engine of the Hilton, but the white glove service of the Conrad. Here our pricing is very obtainable. We start in the 500s for our luxury studios. We go up to 3 bedrooms, and we are fully turnkey, fully furnished, and full hands-free management. So you can live here full-time if you'd like. Why not? You're on the beach and you have twice a day cleaning every single day. But many people come from 3 specific buckets that we're seeing. So for the realtors out there, you kind of know who our clientele is. So first we have a lot of locals, a lot of Weston, Parkland, who have their family houses out west and they want to own a beach property. And what better way to own a property that you can put in a leaseback program and that you can still enjoy on the weekends with free valet and all of the perks and services that we have here. The other bucket is, of course, the Northeasterners who are escaping those winters. We welcome them, and they have the same awesome management programs. The third bucket is Latin America. Latin Americans love our leaseback program. So now I mentioned it 3 times. What is that? So our leaseback program is an option that we have. It is where the developer actually leases the unit back from you each year for 6 years. So you don't have to worry about occupancy or rates or the stresses of owning in a resort residence. You actually get paid for the whole year, 9% of your purchase price, 6 years in a row, and you get 30 days of usage. So those Westlands people, 30 weekends, are they really going to have time for that? Probably not. So they get to enjoy the perks of knowing exactly how much money is coming into them and having a little vacation home. So we do pay 6% commission. We can close immediately, of course, because we're open. This is my sales team. This is Jamie, Rigo, and Judith. And if you can hang out after this, we'd love to take you on a tour. We will pay for your valet if you stay and hang out with us. And then also we're giving away 10-day passes. So give us your business cards out there, and 10 of you will win a day pass to the Conrad, 25% off the spa, use in the pool, the beach, anything you need. So thank you all so much for coming, and enjoy this program. It's really the best, and thank you, Adriana, for having us.
Thank you, Chris. A big round of applause. You have me at spot. Okay, so Jenny, I'm going to bring you up. This is Jenny Morejon, the Executive Director of the Fort Lauderdale DDA. She's going to share with us some opening remarks before we bring our first panel up.
Good morning, everyone. So pleased to be here. I'm Jenny Morejon, as he mentioned, and thank you for that wonderful pronunciation. Here in Fort Lauderdale, we don't always get that correct, but that's okay. We're a city that's truly transforming, and the Downtown Development Authority is certainly one of the major vehicles to make that happen. I'm so pleased to be represented today with 3 of our board members present. Both Alan Hooper and Charlie Ladd will be on the second panel, and we also have Jim Ellis here as well today. So just pleased to be a sponsor here. For those of you who don't know, the DDA is a special legislative body. We were established in the 60s, really when downtown was experiencing significant suburban flight. So we like to say downtown's really just risen in the past 20 plus years. It's a city that is virtually being built in front of our eyes. We have about 10,000 residential units that exist on the ground today, another 5,000 or so under construction, and probably another 5,000 that are approved to be built. We've seen a 50% increase in volume of residential development just since the recession, and it does not look like that's stopping, and that's all really part of a bigger plan. At the same time, we haven't seen any new office space growth, but we have wonderful projects on the horizon, several new office buildings, some are in the lobby here today. Our vacancy rates for office are quite low, down to about 3.5%, and that's because we haven't seen much vacancy. But at the same token, the rental rates for both office and residential since the recession have grown by almost 38%. So there's clearly pent-up demand to come into downtown Fort Lauderdale. With that comes a wonderful resurgence of commercial and retail space, and we're seeing those prices comparable to Miami and other areas. So there's clearly the rooftop follows, retail follows rooftops approach, and in the next couple of years we'll see thousands of more residents coming in to fill downtown. So what does that mean? We've been ranked number 6 by the ULI in their emerging market and trends report. We're one of the top 10 cities to find a job, one of the highest livability cities in Florida. We're one of the top 20 foodie cities, so that's fun. So you gotta have places to eat. And as a DDA, we're really here to make sure that that pipeline of investment keeps going, that all of you that help make this wonderful city vibrant and growing have the tools and the resources you need. So we focus on big projects that are catalytic to the success of downtown Fort Lauderdale. We're steadfast in making sure that a new federal courthouse is built and located in downtown Fort Lauderdale. We're working hard with our partners at the city and the county to try to bring about a new joint government campus, opening up existing public land for more development, more opportunities, whether that's workforce housing, retail, new office space. We're working on urban acupuncture projects. So what does that mean? Finding those key spots in downtown Fort Lauderdale that need a little shot in the arm. Working on streetscape projects, putting murals on the ground, on the walls, making sure that our community has a resource to go to really show that civic pride. So a lot of what we're doing is social media engagement, getting out there, being at events like this to make sure that this positive message of greater downtown Fort Lauderdale is communicated during all of this transition. So it's not without its challenges. Any city that's growing this fast in such a short amount of time needs to focus on things like quality public realm. We have an opportunity today at the Fort Lauderdale Commission meeting to determine if we want to move forward with a small project called Tunnel Top Plaza. This could be a fairly small space, but it covers part of the tunnel where it goes under the river on US 1. These are investments in the public spaces that make people say, this is a city I want to live in, I want to do business in, I want to visit, and I want to come back. We're working hard to make sure that those kind of improvements and many others stay moving forward, including investments in mobility and transportation. So all of those topics will be discussed with these two wonderful panels today. I'm pleased to be here with my team, Marty, Alex, and Elizabeth, and I also see Michael Weymouth, another board member, so wanted to recognize him. So thank you, Adriano, for having us be the sponsor, and I look forward to a wonderful morning here today.
Thank you very much, John. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up our first panel, which is entitled The Impact of Fort Lauderdale's Growth on Greater Broward County. So if I can have our speakers make their way up to the stage. I see Mr. John Gilman over here, Mr. Scott Claren, Dave Matwani, I'm somewhere, he's around. I got Peggy, making her way up, and Mr. Bob Shapiro. Musical chairs here. Yeah, let's get you front and center, Chris. Okay, so, Mr. Gelman, tell us. Wow, already causing problems with him? So, John, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you work. I think most people in this room probably know where you work, have an idea, but if not, just let them know. And then, what is your favorite restaurant right now here in Fort Lauderdale? We'll have everyone introduce themselves, and we'll jump into it.
Thank you, Adriano, for the kind introduction. And a big thank you to BizNow and to our sponsors for making this event happen, and to everyone for coming out this morning. This is really a terrific crowd. I'm John Gilman. I'm a shareholder in the real estate department of Greenberg Trauer's Fort Lauderdale office. I focus my practice on the development, financing, joint venture, purchase and sale of all asset classes of real estate throughout Florida and nationally. I have some of my colleagues here this morning. Where are they sitting? Ah, there they are. Stephanie, Alexis, and Zach, part of our team at Greenberg Trauer in the real estate department. Thanks for coming out, guys. I arrived in Fort Lauderdale in 1992. I know several people I ran into, some old friends in the lobby reminded me how old I am. So I don't feel old, but can't run away from dates. So I was fresh out of law school, and when I got to Fort Lauderdale, there were really just a few office buildings downtown. The beach was still trying to figure out how to survive without spring break. And downtown was pretty much a ghost town after 6 p.m. at night. And as I'm sure everyone in this room can attest to, a lot has changed since then. We now have what's fast becoming a 24-hour city, which is kind of hard to believe, and I don't think 20 years ago anyone would have believed that. We have world-class hotels, new office towers, which we'll hear about this morning. We have fantastic restaurants, and we have thousands of new residents, and apropos to what we're discussing today, some really exciting new neighborhoods in places that no one really could have dreamed of before. And so as the city's grown, my practice has as well, and I've had the privilege and opportunity to work on many of the projects that really have reshaped our skyline. And with the innovators who've really made that possible, folks like Terry Stiles, who unfortunately left us this year, David Horvitz and his late father Bill, the Matwani family. Dave is on our panel today. Wayne Heisinger, Steve Halmos, and the late Peter Feldman, who is really the visionary who was responsible for what's now known as Flagler Village. So today I'm really working with a new generation of investors who are really driving the region and the city forward. And I'm incredibly optimistic about the future of real estate in Fort Lauderdale, and I hope you share my enthusiasm. And we have a fantastic panel today of some of the thought leaders in Broward County and Fort Lauderdale real estate. And now I'd like to let the panelists introduce themselves. Scott, why don't you start?
Thanks, John. You didn't answer your favorite restaurant.
There's too many to count.
Answer. Well, thank you again. Thanks to BizNow. Good morning, everybody. My name is Scott McLaren. I'm the president of Styles Corporation. I've been with the firm about 20 years. We like to call ourselves full-service real estate developers and investors, and that full-service term really references Terry tried to build a vertically integrated development firm. And so we not only provide real estate services to our own projects and to ourselves, but also to third-party clients. And much more so today, the third party, than we did back when Terry had that vision to form the business. We play in really the three categories, office, retail, and multifamily. We're headquartered in Fort Lauderdale, have been since the beginning. We do business throughout the major metros of Florida through a number of small offices in state. And then in about 2012, we moved up to Charlotte and opened an office really to follow public supermarkets, but since then have expanded into our other product types as well. We see those markets, Charlotte, Raleigh, Charleston, and now Nashville as well, as really growing markets. And we add those to the excitement that we have here for Fort Lauderdale. And as it relates to this topic today, we've never been so invested in Fort Lauderdale. We've got 3 new development projects that are just out of the ground finally. They feel like they're 10 years in the making sometimes. But very excited, very bullish about Fort Lauderdale, and look forward to adding to the conversation.
Thanks, Scott. My name is Chris Gallagher. I guess no one has answered the restaurant question, so I'll go first. My favorite restaurant here in Fort Lauderdale is Steak 954. I am a beach resident here in Fort Lauderdale. I live a mile up the road, so that's my favorite restaurant. A little background on myself. I moved down to Fort Lauderdale roughly about 22 years ago. I started my career with CBRE, spent my early years, about 4 years at CBRE, and then I worked for a developer, Duke Realty, for building office buildings, leasing office buildings for 10 years throughout Broward County. And then, fortunately, I came back home to CB about 2 years ago, and I am working on the landlord side for CBRE, and I'm representing a number of very exciting developments, office developments here in South Florida, so I'll mix in a couple of commercials when I answer questions about my projects, but that's it for me.
There we go. Deb Mitwani, president of Merrimack Ventures. Our company's called the Merrimack because I actually grew up on this very site in a motel called the Merrimack, so a little tidbit there. Family has been on the beach since the mid-'80s. We started off owning and operating motels. We've kind of grown into more development. This was our first project that we did. My mother actually designed and entitled the project, and then brought in some development partners out of New York who decided to bring in Donald Trump to brand the hotel. And so as we started to deal with these heavyweights, we needed some horsepower since this was our first deal. And so we leaned on John and his team to help us. And they did a fantastic job for us. So thank you, John. That was an exciting time for the family as we grew into development. As I look out this window, right outside of here is the Four Seasons, which we are co-developing and going vertical on. That was the first project I worked on with the family when I moved home. And then behind that I can see the Gale, which is a boutique hotel and condo, which was my first project kind of on my own, that we've completed the condo and we're now building we're renovating the historic hotel. And if there was a window over here, I would see the Paramount, which was a project that I put together and then brought my brother and his team in to develop, and Peggy and her team did a fantastic job of selling it out for us to build Peggy. And Scott and his company, Styles, did the construction for us, did a fantastic job. So truly a family affair, not just beyond the Matwani family, but beyond, and many people in this room that have helped us. We are active in the downtown now, and you can't talk about downtown Fort Lauderdale without paying homage to Terry Stiles. It's easy for those of us who are in there now to go in and make things work, but he was really the visionary and the trailblazer, building when there was nothing there and having a true vision. And we're talking about the expansion of Fort Lauderdale, so we're also building in Pompano and Dania Beach and in Plantation, so really greater Broward County. And we're excited about the growth in all these markets.
Well, good morning. My name is Peggy Olenfusi. I've been living in Broward County. I actually came here about 12 years ago. Not very happy to move here originally because I lived in Coral Gables, I lived in Miami, and at the time I felt like there were not a lot of foreign people living in the Coral Ridge area and going to the Coral Ridge Country Club. I remember walking in and saying, oh my God, this is very different from where I'm used to. And I'm very, very happy that I made that move to Fort Lauderdale and watch it grow over these last 10 years. I'm excited. Our company, we started actually 10 years ago this month. We are very blessed to have worked in amazing properties with incredible teams. We have an expertise. We focus on development sales and work along and partner with developers to really become integrated to what their needs are and where we are, and creating strategies to really move product and maximize value for our developers. We have an incredible team that travels all over the world. The reason why my company is named One World is because I always had a dream that I wanted to do business all over the world, and I wanted my phone never to stop ringing, and I work in different time zones. And today I can tell you that I go to sleep to the time zone, wake up to a different one every morning, so it's 24 hours a day, and I'm very thankful to do that. We do business in China, we do business in Europe, we do business here, and I would have not liked it any other way. One of the biggest things I see about Fort Lauderdale is that on the growth and bringing in some of the international markets, we are fortunate to work, obviously we were very fortunate to work along and finish selling the Paramount Fort Lauderdale here on the beach, which originally was the first development that came off the ground after 10 years of nothing coming new on the beach, and we were very fortunate to see that happen. And now we are working here with Coulter on the redevelopment, participating on the 100 Las Olas property, which again is also breaking some records, and we'll talk about that later. In addition to also seeing the rebirth of South Florida and Miami market as well, and seeing just the differences on how our buyers change from the north to the south and what they're really looking for in different areas. So that's just a little about us.
I'm Bob Shapiro. I'm president of a company called Master Development Partners. Partners with a gentleman named Terry Salsa. International Airport. We're 2.5 miles from Port Everglades. We're building 2.5 million square feet of mixed-use projects, including 850,000 feet of retail, which is split between community center and lifestyle retail. We have a developer that's doing 600 luxury rental apartments, the Myers Group. We have a hotel developer, Nick Economist, who's doing 2 Marriott hotels, one full-service, 200 rooms, and one AC, 150 rooms. And then we're working with a office developer to do up to 500,000 feet of office. So when the project is done, we become somewhat of a city within the city, and we think that we're the that we have the location being on I-95, 25 miles from Boca, 25 miles from Miami, 25 miles from Weston. Within that 25-mile drive range, there's over 1 million residents that will hopefully Chinese restaurant, a Italian restaurant, anything you can name, we're going to have there, and everybody will have their choice. I have a partner that I always give credit to for years ago that say people travel on their stomach, and we're going to have, and we'll talk more about it in a minute, but Dania Point will be a destination location for people that come from other places, but as well that attract all of the residents within the 25-minute drive range. So we're very excited about it. We had our grand opening on Thursday of our first 300,000 square feet of retail, and we hope to have another 350 to 400,000 feet done by the end of the year next year.
Thank you, everyone. Well, let's get started by digging in a little bit into what's going on downtown. Scott, so as you mentioned in your introduction, Styles has seen and been a part of many cycles of development downtown. What are you seeing today, and what differentiates development today from the previous cycles?
Well, I mean, it's totally different. What we're going through right now, you mentioned it when you kicked off, John. Even I remember 15 years ago, over 15 years ago, we were delivering the Bank of America office building, and I was literally sitting with those tenants. We had a new ice cream shop. We had an Atlanta bread in our current office building today. I was convincing them to hang on for the residential. The residential's coming, right? And unfortunately, they couldn't. The retail wasn't supported by this 24-hour city that we are seeing right now be created in the cycle. We're no longer that little stepsister or to Miami or that city between two cities. We are on the map, and there's a lot of people talking about Fort Lauderdale across the country. Jenny mentioned that in some of the stats that she started with. We've got institutional investment, hundreds of millions of dollars right now being poured into downtown core of Fort Lauderdale. So it's really exciting what's going on. Peggy will correct some of my numbers, and my numbers don't match Jenny's numbers that she just threw out about the residential, but think about the density that is happening right now. It's here. It was a lot different than 15 years ago when we talked about it. And we're struggling to keep people around after 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, as you mentioned. And right now, I use the downtown core of about 2,500, let's say, multifamily units. Okay, and again, Jenny said 5,000. I'm shrinking that square down a little bit. And so 2,500 active institutional type projects, units within projects downtown. Peggy again knows the numbers better on the condo side than I do, but I'm thinking about the 4 or 5 core institutional condo buildings that were built in the last cycle. And let's call that about 1,500 units. So 4,000 units today, and what I'm defining as the core. And we're about to see another 4,000 to 5,000 units in that same geography in the core, institutional level quality projects pop out of the ground. Mostly multifamily, but also Peggy's project, which is one of the most exciting projects in downtown in Los Angeles. So that density, we joke all the time, the skyline is about to double over the next 3 years. And that alone is exciting. That live, work, play is attracting those institutional investors. It is now a big reason that 10 years after the last office building that was created in downtown, which was the Automation Tower, that it's time again, right? We filled up the office buildings, which when we were coming out of the recession, John, I don't think we thought we were going to be in the office building development business again, right? There's some question. And we couldn't be more pleased that right now we see rents have grown, the big blocks of space that existed a number of years ago have shrunk, and the time was right. And by the way, if you worked for Terry Styles, you knew you had to be looking for the next office building constantly. And he was working on this Broward College site for over 10 years. But over the last 3 years, it really came together where we did a long-term, 100-year ground lease with Broward College. And we've got 360,000 square feet that's just broken ground with some retail on the ground floor. And we're teaming that with a sister 25-story, apartment building, about 350 units. And just as exciting as any of those components, a small boutique grocery store, which is going to be on the ground floor. So finding a grocery store in the downtown, some of these pieces that we talk about that have been missing, we'll probably talk about more during this panel, are here. And again, we're on the map. It's just a completely different environment than the last cycle.
Thank you, Scott. Peggy, that's a great segue to you. We're teeing up to talk about what's going on in the residential markets in downtown. So you're one of the top residential brokers in the area. What are your clients looking for now, and how much interest are you seeing in folks wanting to live downtown?
So, it was interesting, when we first started working with Coulter and looking into the downtown site, if you notice there's a lot of cranes, but there's really not much for sale. And the first thing that comes to mind, the first thing that we discussed was, we've got to make sure we build, because people want to feel the confidence of a developer who has the funds, who's not waiting to do pre-sales to reach a certain level in order to come to market and start construction. So that was the first step that Coulter did, which I thought was incredible. To really, we believe in this area. We're here to stay. We're building, and right now we are topping off now in December, which is an incredible testament to them and to the area. There are many business leaders in this room who are doing a huge push on elevating Fort Lauderdale, the entire Las Olas corridor. We have a jewel here that's incredible, and all of us that are involved and day in and day out in promoting what Fort Lauderdale is and what Fort Lauderdale, the vision of Fort Lauderdale. It's really incredible when you're day in and day out seeing everything that is coming to the area. And for that, what do the buyers want? They really want to be in an area where people value their time, most than anything, I think, today. And Fort Lauderdale offers that, being able to have the walkability factor of being able to park your car, or not use your car at all, for that matter, and come from the airport and just stay in your residence and walk to a restaurant, walk to a play, walk to a museum, and frankly, you can even walk to the beach, but if not, you can hop on one of those golf cars that are going up and down Las Olas, or a trolley to give you a ride. So that factor of time, which is very, very valuable, I think the more people are really, really focusing on that, what's important to them. And it goes in different steps. So we have the people that are coming in from the western suburbs, obviously, who are downsizing. But it's interesting when you say downsizing here, because at 100 Las Olas, we see people that are buying and combining units and making an estate plan, as we call it. And they don't mind spending $3 million on a high floor unit in the middle of downtown Fort Lauderdale. Now, if I would tell you that we sold a unit this past week for over $1,000 a foot, you would be shocked, I'm thinking, of downtown Fort Lauderdale. And the reality is that people are not so much concerned sometimes about the number of price per square foot, but they're really more concerned about the ultimate price and accessibility of a neighborhood they really want to be in. So I think the fact that everybody's putting so much emphasis on continuing to elevate the city, it's important. And again, that's my number one thing, that people really want walkability at a time for themselves.
Thank you, Peggy. That's fascinating. And it's great to hear from someone who really has their finger on the pulse of what's going on in these markets. Let's expand a little bit beyond downtown. So, Bob, you've been a visionary your whole career, seeing opportunities where others don't. Little trivia, Bob was actually a Greenberg Trauer lawyer at one point, although I'm not sure he admits it anymore.
I do.
So I guess the question that's going through my mind is, why Dania? Why did you see opportunity in Dania, which I think it's fair to say has been a historically sleepy city that has not had much commercial and retail development?
The answer is that Dania happens to be on I-95 between Sterling Road and Griffin Road. office will complement the retail, the hotels will activate the retail, the restaurants will activate everything. And Dania Point has really become an oasis, and being, again, on I-95, very convenient, you know, for husband and wife that work in different places, very convenient for, you know, people coming from Palm Beach County or Weston. And again, the Eastward Home movement, you know, we're attracting a lot of people, we believe, from, you know, the Weston Plantation areas, you know, to come both to work and to, you know, we believe that, you know, a lot of the residential will be rented to baby boomers as well as millennials, and people coming from the east. So that, you know, what we've created is a very walkable, livable area where people don't have to have cars, where you can Uber to downtown or to Las Olas. We don't think that we replace Fort Lauderdale. We think we complement Fort Lauderdale, and we think that you know, we're really the next expansion of the Fort Lauderdale metropolitan market, but a big expansion. I mean, it's going to be 2.5 as much as 3 million square feet if we're able to get DOT to do certain things on I-95. So it's not necessarily Dania Beach per se. The property was in Dania Beach, and now Dania Beach is growing because of Dania Point.
Thanks, Bob. So, Dave, you are the true local now, as you mentioned in your introduction, growing up literally on the site of this building. You're also active in Dania, but I'd like to move a little bit closer to downtown. You're working on several projects that are south of the river, which has also historically been an area that development has not gotten to. How are the areas south of the river changing and benefiting from the growth of downtown?
Sure. Well, we only have one south of the river, unless you count Dania, then we have 2. Then you have to count Miami, and then we have more. So, I will talk about south side of the river, but I just want to expand a little bit on what Bob said about Dania, because you know, Broward County has 31 cities, so we tend to think this is a conversation about neighborhoods, but we talk about cities here because we have these, you know, barriers or these lines of demarcation between them. But it's insane to have 31 cities in such a small area and that many governments to feed. But anyways, the reality is, when you look at Dania, it's like, I mean, it's really South Fort Lauderdale. You know, if you talk to anyone from outside the market, and you know, when I drive people from downtown to my site that I have, which is the corner of Dania Beach Boulevard and Federal Highway, and we're doing 300 luxury apartments there. You know, they're like, they don't understand why we consider it anything other than basically South Fort Lauderdale. When you think about how far north Fort Lauderdale as a city expands, there's tons of luxury apartments up Federal Highway that go further and further north that are technically in Fort Lauderdale, but they're much further from the core. Dania Beach has amazing access to highways. It has much better proximity, obviously, to Miami-Dade. Great beaches, but it's also obviously adjacent to the port and the airport, which are the 2 biggest demand drivers in terms of jobs in this county. And yet, so sometimes that creates disadvantages. Being so well geographically located, it creates natural barriers to expansion. As a local, we were waiting for the airport to expand before you really knew what Dania was going to look like. But that's happened, and now we know. And it really just needed a catalyst, and that catalyst is absolutely Dania Point. So kudos to Bob and his team for putting that crazy assemblage together. So we're super bullish. I mean, I always say Dania is the next Pompano. We were in Pompano before, and there we are in Pompano now, but I was pushing Pompano as the next market. And the reality is that Dania has way better geographical advantages over Pompano. Pompano's a great city. The city, they're doing some great things on the beach and trying to revitalize the downtown and Atlantic Boulevard. But Dania absolutely has all those characteristics and more. So we're excited about that. In terms of the south side of the river, again, we have a river, and that's really the delineation between the core and the downtown. And so as we've seen, but it's a mental barrier. You have to go over a bridge. So I think the south side of the river has lacked development more for that reason than anything else. It's again great geographical location, great zoning in that area. You've got the new federal courthouse. You have a lot of demand drivers. But someone has to go in there and improve the market. Flagler Village, someone went in there and improved the market a couple of cycles ago, and now you're seeing the tremendous growth there and how great of a neighborhood that is. The south side, you had Related and you had American Land, Granville, put 2 apartment buildings on the river, and those have done extremely well, but they were on the river. It really wasn't until, I think he's still here, Alan Hooper and his team did the Q off the river and proved the market, proved that there is a demand for the south side, and they had a tremendous sale, and they were rewarded for it as they should be. But that was one of the catalysts to really excite me and our team for the south side. We are doing, this hasn't been announced, so we'll talk a little bit about it here. I don't know if the media's here. But we're going to look at a senior housing deal, high-rise tower on the south side of the river, just a block away from the river, so it's a quick proximity to Las Olas. We think that product is going to do extremely well on the south side because we have the great views, we have walkability, but just outside the core, so you have a little bit less traffic, and so in terms of senior housing, which we don't have any projects currently in the ground, a couple are planned in the downtown, we haven't seen that product, that demographic addressed in our downtown. South side is also immediately adjacent to Rio Vista, which is one of the highest end neighborhoods, obviously, and a short distance to Las Olas Isles, where you have a very high-end wealthy demographic that we think will want maybe their parents or seniors close by, but on the other side of Federal Highway, it's not too close. So we're excited. Obviously we're going to talk about the wave, I'm sure. That I think would have expanded the opportunity on the south side, further south. But the immediate south side of the river is still extremely walkable once you get walking over a bridge. And for me, I'd rather walk over a bridge than cross Broward Boulevard. So it seems like an obvious geographic location.
And Dad, don't underestimate the fact that we finally got a brewery in downtown Fort Lauderdale on the south side of the river, a couple of cool coffee shops, and these are pieces that all are meaningful at the time that help everything continue to grow.
Absolutely. Those are actually 2 of my favorite spots, the little ones next to Publix over there. Little gems if anybody wants to go over there. Let's talk about infrastructure a little bit, and this is appropriate because the event is being sponsored in part by the DDA. Infrastructure plays a key role in real estate development. We all know that, we've all learned that. Our airports and our seaports have expanded. We're voting today on a proposal for a penny sales tax, and I'm not advocating it or not advocating it, to fund new transportation projects. And the Bright Line is running, and we have a stop right here in Fort Lauderdale. So Chris, I know you're working with Bright Line. How is the Bright Line changing the growth dynamics of the region?
Well, thanks for the question. As far as infrastructure is concerned here in South Florida, I think we do a good job moving people through our airports and through our cruise ship terminals. We're moving $98 million a year through those Palm Beach, Miami, and Broward. So we're doing a good job there. As far as the Bright Line is concerned, I think it's a game changer to the overall development of the overall market as well as the office market and the land surrounding it. And then I'll kind of go into a little story here, is that I live on the beach here, and then there's a new form of transportation that arrived at my doorstep this Saturday, which was a green line scooter, which I'm proud to say I actually got on the scooter, I got to the W and got back safely. But with that being said, when I woke up this morning, I put on my suit, I think I'm looking pretty good. I opted not to take the scooter to this meeting because I did not want to come in all disheveled and whatnot. So the key is that we've got 6 million people here in South Florida, and we got to figure out a way how to get them throughout South Florida here. And of that 6 million people, roughly about 2.5 million people are in the workforce. So ultimately, what I think the Bright Line does to the overall economy of South Florida is that it unifies the labor pool of all South Florida. meaning that we've got labor that can now easily move between Miami, Broward, and Palm Beach. And then I'm going to dovetail into a quick commercial. I work on behalf of FTL, is building a 175,000 square foot building on top of the building there. So we are currently seeking and actively looking for tenants that are on top of the red line. The reason I talk about the unification of the population in South Florida is that the tenants that we're seeing that are looking at the office space on top of the bright line are looking for high educated workforce that they can move. If you couldn't fill those jobs so easily in Broward, now you expand the labor pool to roughly plus or minus 3 million people. And if you're a technology company, that would be an ideal location to be in Fort Lauderdale, centrally located. So that's hopefully that answers your question.
Scott, what are you seeing in your projects?
And so I think we all got an opinion already. We're forming about Brightline one way or the other. We've all got an opinion about the wave. We're listening to our tenants, as is Chris right now, the prospective tenants that we're working with, some of the tenants that we've already signed up in our office building downtown, and they are in a war for talent. Okay, right now it is a tough job market as an employer, and you are trying to lure the next greatest generation, right? And we kind of laugh about that, but the millennials are now gone, and Gen Z is here, and we want Gen Z, and these companies want Gen Z, and the bright line is one of the pieces to an urban environment, right? We see it every day in Charlotte, we see it in Nashville, these really exciting cities that provide an urban work play, and now all of a sudden we've got it in Fort Lauderdale, and so the bright line is a piece of that. We'll see, how quickly it really grabs on, but I think Fort Lauderdale's got a little bit of a challenge as compared to West Palm and Miami, who, just frankly, their stops are in a little bit better location than where we are. Now, don't get me wrong, I like Chris's office building a lot. I think over time it's going to be great. It's going to fill in that area. You're going to see things come just by the very nature of that stop that the landscape's going to change around your office building, Pat. And so I just think that we've got a challenge. Jenny and her group at the DDA are doing a great job. The city is obviously engaged. We've got a trolley system. I don't know if anybody knows it, that runs around downtown. I've never been on it personally. I should. But we've got to get people from that stop into the core. We've got to get people from there down to the beach, right? We've got to get them so they don't walk out that beautiful building and kind of go, oh boy, what do I do now, right? We've got good leadership, as I mentioned, working on it. But I think over time, you look at areas like Charlotte. I spent 4 years there with our company, opening an office, and they about 10 years ago probably, they used some federal funds and built a light rail system right through an area called South End, coming out of uptown Charlotte South. And that was historically industrial, it was car shops, it was nothing residential or live work play about it. And today, it's probably the most exciting submarket to do business in, of course, besides Fort Lauderdale. So it's got 5,000 or 6,000 units. We just did a grocery store a couple years ago there. We just completed an office building there. The rail is meaningful, and it will be over time.
Thanks, Scott. We talked a little bit before about live, work, play, and then this now becomes one of the mantras about development now. Peggy alluded to that earlier, that how important walkability is and how important people's time are. So we're seeing this demand all over. We talked a little bit about Dania. But Dave, you've also done some deals in Pompano. What's driving interest and growth in that part of the county?
Again, I think it's just an extension of, partly an extension of Fort Lauderdale North. Prices were a little bit cheaper, traffic a little bit less. Still great beaches, still great proximity to other great communities. On the beach, they opened one new restaurant, another one coming. They're starting to activate their beach a little bit better. So the city's made investments in their CRA. They had RMA Associates who was running the CRA. I think they do a fantastic job. And they started to get the downtown going. So, but it starts, as Scott mentioned, it starts with they've got a great brewery on Atlantic, and they've got, they're investing in these coffee shops and sort of bringing that that kind of interesting retail that people want, that start to help form neighborhoods. They were doing all of that. They fortunately had a CRA with capital, so they were able to invest those dollars. But yeah, that was something that's been going on for years and years, and we've just watched it. I always say my first paying job was at the Houston's in Pompano. I worked plenty at the Merrimack, but it was for my family, so they get paid. And so my first paying job was up there at Houston's, and quite frankly, I didn't know it was Pompano. I grew up here, like I just drive up the Atlantic and, you know, go over the bridge. So again, I think when people come from out of the market, and we have obviously a lot of in-migration in this market, they don't look at they don't look at it as being a different city. They look at what their amenities, what their attributes are, and you know, and so that's how we started to look at it. You know, if you grew up here, you're from Fort Lauderdale, you didn't call it Pompano, you called it Pompton. You know, and there was a stigma. You know, now I'm like the opposite. I'm trying to undo that. But yeah, we own a portfolio of single-family homes in Atlanta, and my houses, two furthest houses that are distances 15 miles, right? Like if I live 50 miles and past Homestead, if I go 50 miles north, I'm up in Jupiter, right? And so, but I don't say I own houses in Fayetteville or whatever. It's Atlanta, and it's greater Atlanta. So, you know, when we talk about Fort Lauderdale, I think it's just important to realize that when we have immigration of people coming in, they're just looking at this region, this area as greater Fort Lauderdale, and then they're looking at amenities that they want. And so Pompano had a lot of those attributes, and that's what drew us there.
So we get into this debate about East versus West a lot. And Eastward Ho has been the motto of our regional planners here for the past 20 years. But most of the time, it's really been more aspiration than reality. But I think we can all agree it's here to stay. Peggy, what are you seeing driving people to move from east to west? Is it millennials, out-of-towners, empty nesters?
You mean west to east?
West. Thank you, west.
So, again, so there are two different demographics here, right? So number one, you have your empty nesters, so you have your homes, there's 10,000 square foot homes in Weston, Parkland, all those areas that, you know, they're empty nesters, they don't really need a 10,000 square foot home, they want to move east and, you know, either come into the beach or downtown. The other thing, that I'm just thinking also is that we in Toronto also have a phenomenal walkability here on the beach. I mean, look how much access there is from all the hotels coming in. So moving into the beaches here for a lot, it also gives you the walkability. So you can walk up this corridor into Las Olas, you know, bring some of that lifestyle into that area as well. But most of the people that I see that want to come east, they're really just looking maybe for a lifestyle. They've done also very well in the real estate market in their homes, and their children have grown in the last 10 years, and now they're, you know, so they have good prices, and they're getting for their homes now, and they're looking into moving west and moving east. But I think also the other thing that we have to look at is that people from Miami who are really priced out of the market really look into Fort Lauderdale and say, wow, I can live in the Isles or I can live on the beach and really pay a significantly difference in price, and therefore I'm going to look at that as an option. And this is why Fort Lauderdale, I mean, if you're looking up in our corridor, I mean, I live here and I want to try to get to Louis Bossi to have dinner with my kids, and it's impossible, right? And any day of the week. We're on Camino now, look how that's passing. So it's really exciting to see now the first one, all that activity coming, because that's what people really say, you know, like, wow, it's really coming. So seeing all those, people will continue to pay the price to move east as long as the retail continues to move, to show up, and the places continue to thrive.
Thank you.
And let me join in. The east is the commercial area and the area where a lot of people work. And as traffic became more difficult and it took longer to get from west to east, people want to be closer to where they work. We are blessed in Broward County. I don't know if everybody knows it or not, but we have one of the lowest unemployment rates in Broward County in the entire state. It's like 3.5%.
considering I live further west too. It wouldn't be a good thing. But Chris, I think you can lend some insight on that. You're working on Metropico, which is really a city within a city that's being built in Sunrise. What makes that project attractive to investment and residents?
Metropico is a super exciting project in West Broward. I mean, by the time it is fully developed, it's a $1.5 billion project. So it's, as far as scale in Florida, it's one of the larger projects compared to all at a minor scale to Hudson Yards in New York. So it's a very exciting project. And from the kind of more the office, which is my expertise, is that the people that are choosing to office there, that will office there in this project, are about the experience. It's about this modern city, a city within a city that you don't have to leave. So when the project's complete, it's going to have the first building is called 1700, which I work on. It's a 170,000 square foot Class A building, coupled by a 240 room luxury boutique hotel, 1,400 residents in the back, and an additional, give or take, 450,000 square feet of office. So I mean, of scale, it is massive. But when you talk about massive, it creates the experience that the consumer of office space wants, especially in West Broward. They just don't want to go into their office. They want to leave their office, go have coffee, have lunch, like Bob mentioned at Danny Point. So it's really exciting in that respect. And one thing that they're doing also at Metropico is like you have a food court, but not a food court like you would think. It's a food court of fitness. So the office tenants now can leave the office space and they can go to a high intensity workout, like yoga, a row. So, I mean, that's what the consumer of office space needs. We talked about low employment. To attract these tenants, you need something a little different, something modern. And that's what Metropico is going to offer with being a futuristic city. The one thing about office space, even though we're probably at historical low vacancy rates, is that office does get old. And then the people like Metropico and what Scott is doing downtown will be rewarded, and what Bob is doing over in Daniel will be rewarded by this new product, because the new consumer of office space is consuming the product differently.
John, if you don't mind, just catty corner view, we're sitting on 30 acres out there, and it kind of stands out in an aerial. We've had this site, we've branded it West Terra, we've had it for a dozen years or more now. We see it as a fantastic corporate office location, similar to American Express, right? They appeared out of nowhere. It's a huge addition to our overall Broward County economy. And I think that's what that location, at least on our site, really is going to dictate is the ability to bring another large corporate user. It's kind of why we're sitting on it. But I will tell you that just like the conversation about downtown, similar to Metropico, you've still got to build amenities today, right? Whether it's our Vita Park in Boca or it's Sawgrass Corporate Park, these corporations are still going to be very focused on some level of retail, some level of affordable, semi-affordable housing. And that housing will be more affordable, of course, than downtown, where you can spread it out, less structured parked. $2 a foot in rents as compared to $3 a foot in rents, which are just keep climbing. So we're very bullish on Sunrise. It's a big part of our DNA and culture, and I think it's a very exciting project you guys are working on.
So I know Adriano's like giving me the time clock over there, but I'm going to indulge everyone for just a few more minutes. I'd like to finish up these panels with a few phone questions. So we've got a lot of expertise on this panel. So let's take out our crystal balls. Peggy, what is Broward County's next hot neighborhood and why?
Well, I love the Fat Village district. I think that is, to me, just our own Wynwood. I think there's so much potential. Every time I drive through it, I just see everything, like the energy that's coming. I think that bright line is really has helped activate all of that. And I just see that we're going to see great things coming into that.
What do you think?
Again, I think that everything along any major corridor, whether it be I-95, 595, Bright Line, etc., convenience of getting
Dave, what do you think?
I mean, obviously we think Dania, that's why we invested there, made a big bet there. But rather than reiterating what Bob said, I just want to address one thing about the east versus west. I hate when I hear that conversation, because the reality is there are people that want to live east and there are people that want to live west, and for different reasons, and that's going to continue. What's changing is we continue to have more and more people in Broward County, and we have very little land, which means we're going vertical. So it's a little bit new for us to see so much vertical development. We have a true downtown, but it doesn't mean that the west needs to suffer because of the success of the east. We're going to have more people. Millennials are still going to get married. They're still going to have kids. They're just going to do it later. They're going to be out and buying these houses in Parkland and Davie where people are selling to buy condos from Peggy on the east side, and that's just going to continue to happen. So being landlocked has its downside, but it also has advantages in that it means that we can have a strong east and west market.
Again, to jump onto that one, things are actually growing west, even in Dania Beach. If you go along Griffin Road west, right now there are 3 or 4 townhouse developments going up for young families. There's a new corporate headquarters that Styles has been building, so that, what's happening really is that all vacant land is really being filled in because of the great demand for a good lifestyle in this particular area.
So Scott and Chris, I'd like to finish off just with a different question. Real estate lines have been great since the Great Recession. Now, we're all football fans here. I know you're a football fan. If we were to analogize the real estate cycle to a football game, what quarter are we in? What is the rest of the game?
I guess it wouldn't be a panel without that question, right? As far as the office, which is my expertise, it's extremely healthy. I think it's got a long runway there. In this cycle, we've seen 3 office buildings built all over Broward County. 880 Pembroke, which I was involved in, Sawgrass 2, which I was involved in, and an EB5 building. So there's been virtually 0 development in all of Broward County. And obviously we've got positive migration, 350,000 the last 5 years. We're projecting 550, a positive absorption in population. So I think the office is very healthy, lack of land. Now rents are starting to get where we need to build new office product, and that's encouraging.
I'm sure everyone here wants to know what Scott and Styles think about all of this.
Well, it's usually a baseball question, so I appreciate you moving into football. And no, we're not going to have a double header. Listen, everybody dances around the question. We're in the third quarter somewhere, okay? And it's going to be different. It's always different, and we never quite see the reason why things change. But things are going to change, right? We're watching supply. We're watching monetary policy. We're clearly watching our tax policy, and we live in, the biggest beneficiary of a state in the country with the new tax laws. And we're going to continue to see people move here. We're going to continue to see demand. So it's a great place to be in business, and I'll make my hat in the third quarter.
Well, thank you, everyone. That's a
Awesome.
great way to finish. Thank you.
So before we get you back around, we're going to bring up our next panel. We'll have this panel exit stage left, and we'll bring up our next panel. And I'm just going to mention on the back of all of your name tags is my number. So I didn't do this for the first panel because we were running up on time. So if you have questions throughout this next panel, text me. And at the end of the panel, we'll open it up to the floor to questions that all of you from. So back in the name tag.